Good evening, everybody. My name is Kaity Hagan. I was born in Saigon, Vietnam. At 7 months old, I was adopted and brought to Duluth, Minnesota, where I grew up. It wasn't until I was 2 years old that my parents found out I was deaf. It was a family friend that suggested to my parents that they take me to the doctor. My mom told me I would randomly belt out the loudest scream I could. She would check on me and I'd be just fine playing with my toys. My prediction was that I was trying to hear my own voice. Doctors in Duluth and Minneapolis told my parents that I was a late bloomer and just hadn't reached the developmental age milestone for my age. Finally, after a visit to Mayo Clinic in Rochester, Minnesota, I was diagnosed as profoundly deaf and with auditory neuropathy, which means the auditory nerve between my brain and ears is damaged. Here I have a demo of what hearing loss can sound like.
On my apartment building on Granite Avenue. You owe me $300. Get it up?
Fran, take it easy. It's only a game.
Well, I'm just like them big tycoons. I play to win. Now, Barney, pay up or get out of the game.
My hearing loss is not included in this video because what I hear is complete, dead silence. At the age of 5, I received a cochlear implant on my right side. I don't remember what it felt like because I was so young. It took 3 years for me to get it because there was no knowledge of whether cochlear implants worked for people with auditory neuropathy, which is more complex than regular hearing loss. In 2002, I was the 11th child with auditory neuropathy to receive a cochlear implant, and it worked. At the age of 13, I received my second cochlear implant in 2010 at Mayo Clinic, Rochester. After being diagnosed, my parents learned American Sign Language, or ASL, and taught me. Then they learned cued speech and taught me also. Because of cued speech and speech therapy, by the time of my surgery, I was able to understand what the doctors were saying by reading their lips. I could also read at a normal level for my age. Now, I just had to learn how to speak. With the cochlear implant, I'd eventually be able to hear the sounds around me, including my own voice, which would help me learn how to talk and communicate with other people. Even though I was now able to speak, it does not mean that I am fixed or cured. Far from that, actually. I was in speech therapy until 3rd grade and had a special education teacher and deaf hard of hearing teacher all the way up until senior year of high school. My cochlear implant didn't cure my deafness because when I go to bed every night, my world is as quiet as can be. Although my deafness impacted me in many ways because of the societal barriers I faced, I still was able to engage in activities that I was passionate about, such as Taekwondo. In 2010, in Duluth, Minnesota, I began my Taekwondo training journey. While testing my memory and physical skills, I learned hundreds of kicking, self-defense, and punching sequences over 3 years. In order to pass my Taekwondo black belt test, I had to break 2 separate boards at once, one with each foot while in midair. I broke 16 boards individually before I broke both of them simultaneously. The perseverance, tenacity, and drive that I developed during Taekwondo has helped me embrace and process the challenges and frustrations I had related to being deaf in a world designed for hearing, able-bodied people. This experience led to, and is the motto for my life, try and try again, because no one except for you is going to understand your journey, let alone your challenges. Many people don't think about the numerous situations that require the ability to hear, and how those situations can be frustrating for people who can't hear. One of those situations was music. Even though I couldn't hear anything for the first 5 years of my life, I learned how to play clarinet, bass clarinet, piano, and baritone, all by 8th grade. I participated in an honor band at the University of Minnesota Duluth and joined the Maroon Concert Band during my freshman year. I met with the band director outside of band sessions. She put her hand on my shoulder and tapped. She was tapping the rhythm of the notes that I had to play. Being deaf, it's hard for me to distinguish rapid rhythms and to decipher what notes to play. No matter how much I practice, this is a constant challenge for me. It was easier for me to feel the rhythm of the music on my body than to listen to it. If I didn't have such an understanding, accommodating director, I would not have been able to participate in band as fully as I did. One might ask, how does a deaf person get involved in music? Both of my parents are musicians. My mom is a musical savant on the piano. My dad played banjo and trumpet. In 3rd grade, I was placed in a music magnet school in Duluth, Minnesota, where every student had to take a music class. So from 3rd grade on, I always had a musical instrument with me. I began playing violin, then switched to clarinet. Initially, I wanted to play percussion, but the school wouldn't let me for some reason. Ironically, percussion is probably one of the best instruments for a deaf person to play because they can feel the vibrations of the drums. Regardless, I played music for the rest of my school career. In high school, during a 2-week symposium, I participated in a jazz ensemble and played clarinet. Jazz music can be played from sheet music or made up on the spot. The sheet music told us what to play and when, but we also had to use our ears to improvise something to play that also sounded good. I couldn't do this. Not only am I deaf, I'm also tone deaf. I asked the director to write down the note sequence he wanted me to play, but he refused. He was encouraging me to be creative and come up with something on my own. Trust me, I tried it and it did not sound harmonic. My mom has perfect pitch and she was not afraid to tell me when my music playing sounds good or awful. I told my special education teacher about what was happening, and she ended up telling the music director that asking me to play music based on what I heard was unreasonable and inaccessible. After that conversation, he wrote down the musical notes I needed to play. In addition to this experience, I played in the University of Minnesota Duluth Senior High Honor Band for 2 consecutive years. Just because I'm deaf doesn't mean I'm incapable of creating music. You don't always need to hear music to enjoy it. Music is not off limits for deaf people. Inaccessibility applies in hobbies, not only applies in hobbies and pleasure activities that I do, but also in academic and professional settings. For example, my college dorm. During freshman year, while laying in my bed in my dorm, an unfamiliar blaring siren sounded. The strong blue LED light in my room began flashing rhythmically. I peered out the door and saw that the hallway doors were shut. Not knowing what was happening, I panicked. I called my interpreters. One of them just happened to be here in Kaufman. She offered to come over to Comstock. I met her in the lobby. I asked the front desk person why I hadn't been notified of the alarm. Their response was, "The point of a fire alarm is that you don't know when it is." I agreed, but the ASL house has pre-arranged accommodations for deaf students. At the time, I was told that a community advisor or CA would come ring my doorbell, or if needed, enter my room to alert me of a fire alarm, drill, or emergency. None of this happened, and it didn't happen just once. On another occasion, I slept through the fire drill, and my friend AJ, who was also deaf, noticed I wasn't outside. She alerted a CA, and the CA entered my room to come get me. Together we went outside and waited for the fire drill to finish. Now just imagine if that was a real fire. This shows that even if we have a strobe light for a doorbell and fire alarm, deaf people won't always be alerted to emergencies. While deaf people are very visual and tactile oriented, for me, I am much more tactile oriented. Because deaf people are lacking a sense, we rely heavily on our other senses. Overactive visual and tactile senses can lead to overstimulation, fatigue, and stress. This situation and my mental health took a toll on me, so I made a difficult decision about my college career. During my sophomore year, I took the spring semester off and moved to Pennsylvania. While there, I visited 2 universities for the deaf, Gallaudet University in Washington, D.C., and Rochester Institute of Technology in Rochester, New York. Both were beautiful small campuses. The campus tours were about 15 minutes total. Compared to the hour-long tour on our campus, it was a breeze. But they had something that the U of M didn't have. They had these blue strobe light columns, as you can see on the screen, spread around campus that were designed to visually alert students to emergencies on or near campus. The blue lights would flash and emergency text messages would be sent to all students. When I got back to school, I emailed the necessary people to ask about getting these installed on campus. Later, I saw them around campus and I was so excited to see them. Just because I'm in college doesn't mean I have to stop advocating for my disability and for my needs. In some ways, I have to advocate more because I don't have a special education teacher to assist me. So I have to be more independent and assertive than in high school, even if that means asserting my needs with the Disability Resource Center on campus. Another instance where I had to advocate for myself was in freshman year, when the U of M didn't understand what disability accommodations I needed when I got here. In fact, I had to get a lawyer to tell the U of M what accommodations and assistive technology I needed. In kindergarten through 12th grade, I used an FM system. There's a couple pictures here, which is a microphone that wirelessly hooks up to my cochlear implant so that I can hear the speaker at a louder volume. I had an old one in high school that I planned on using in college, but as we know, technology fails at some point. However, it wore out just shortly after starting college. I asked the Disability Resource Center for a new one. I researched the FM types, features, and costs with my case manager. We found an FM system that was compatible with my cochlear implant and decided it would be the best fit for my classroom accessibility needs. Then a huge barrier popped up. The U of M wouldn't buy it because they needed proof that I needed it and why. Now I had to do something that I didn't want to do ever. I brought an attorney in from Legal Aid Minneapolis and explained what was going on. Legal Aid and the Disability Resource Center did their thing. Finally, 9 months later, in my sophomore year, it was determined that the U of M had to legally purchase the FM system for me. I could have had a baby in that time. Not only do these frustrations arise in academia, but also in entertainment and social situations. Another part of being deaf that people do not think about often is closed captioning on movies, videos, and other media. One time I went to a movie in Duluth, Minnesota to see Frozen. The closed captions weren't working. Instead of captions for Frozen, which, as we all know, is a children's movie, captions were showing for an adult romantic comedy on my device. So I think the captions that I saw were highly inappropriate for the Frozen movie. Another time when one Star Wars movie came out a few years ago, the captions didn't work. Honestly, I walked out of that theater in tears. My dad, my brothers, and I loved Star Wars, but I couldn't enjoy it with them because I couldn't hear the movie or read the non-existent captions. It doesn't happen in just movie theaters. It can happen on TV shows, news stations, YouTube, and Facebook videos, and more. Here are some examples that I posted. The one on the top left says, firefighters to deal with not just the fire, with people in the middle of the road ejaculating. And then the one on the lower right says, how about you just stick a finger up my blowhole and call it Christmas? And is that Dr. Phil? I'm pretty sure Dr. Phil didn't say that. I hope not. So after seeing things like this, and you can Google them, and there's plenty more. You can laugh all night laughing at this stuff. Sometimes I wonder what the typist was doing to type such horrible, inaccurate captions. I'm betting that most of them type with their elbows or chins. Imagine not being able to hear or understand the voices and having to rely on inaccurate captions to comprehend whatever you're watching. Although these may be funny, in the grand scheme of things, having incorrect captions on the screen is a barrier for all who cannot hear. I hope that one day, all movies and all theaters will be closed captions. Open captions right on the screen where everyone can see it would be great too. So I want to ask you, who here uses closed captions when they watch videos or movies? Like 3/4 of you. So how many of you wouldn't mind having open captions showing at the movie theater? Well then, let's start a petition. Even if some movie showings at certain times had open captioning, that would be great, but they don't even have that yet. As I've explained, there are many instances where hearing people don't think about or see the challenges and obstacles deaf people have to face on a day-to-day basis for the rest of our lives. This is something I'll have to deal with forever, and it won't get any easier. Even after all these situations, barriers, and struggles, I've achieved a lot of accomplishments too. Most notably, I worked for Ramsey County Attorney's Office last summer as a law clerk intern. I've done road construction for the city of Duluth, which was my least favorite job. One of my most impactful jobs was in San Francisco, California, where I was a graduate program coordinator intern at the University of the Pacific. This summer, I have a clerkship with the University of Minnesota Student Legal Services. Here, I'll be able to learn more about the legal career because my ultimate goal in the future is to become a criminal prosecutor or a judge. The world is not designed for people with disabilities. It's 2018, and there are still movie theaters without closed captioning. If we can make an iPhone 10 and sell it for $1,000, we can type a script and put it on TV and in theaters. In the future, be more aware of whether the things you do every day are accessible for people with disabilities. Deafness is an invisible disability, and the severity and impact differs from person to person. It's never the same. Just because someone knows how to speak, it doesn't mean they can hear or understand you. Not all disabilities make people incapable of holding a job, getting an education, or starting a family. Please do your part in reversing the stereotype that people with disabilities are unemployable, can't learn, or can't have a family. To all of you out there, try and try again, because no one except for you is going to understand your journey, let alone your challenges. Equity is a necessity, not an option. Everyone has the right to equal access and to experience the ups and downs of life, regardless of what their disability is. Thank you.